Hey kiddies, it's Triple Feature Tuesday once again, and we kick off Black Awesomeness month with Eddie Murphy movies I haven't seen before.
Boys are back in town.
Yeah, this was a challenge by one of my coworkers, Tracy, to watch 3 Eddie Murphy movies that were on Netflix that I'd never seen before for reasons that, were never readily apparent. I just never got around to them for most of them, but then there's one that I just didn't want to watch at all. So our menu is going to include Tower Heist, 48 Hours, and Harlem Nights. Now, Tower Heist... Alright, I'm going to be honest, this is not the strongest triple feature to start such a wonderful month off with. I did not really like any of these movies this week, but this is what we're doing. So Tower Heist is well past Eddie's prime. He's sort of barely in the movie. The movie is predominantly about Ben Stiller trying to pull off this heist, stealing all the money from Alan Alda, who has screwed him and all of his co-workers over, and he forms a crew with Eddie Murphy as a thief and Matthew Broderick as some sort of ruined financial advisor, and Casey Affleck's his brother-in-law. And they go to steal from Alan Alda. And what's weird, and is actually going to be a recurring theme, is this week, is that it's not really a comedy, or at the very least there weren't a hell of a lot of jokes in it, or enough jokes that it would qualify as a comedy. It plays sort of like a straight up heist movie, which is not shocking. It's written by Ted Griffin, who worked on the Ocean's 11 movies. And so you get this horrible situation of, well, it's not funny enough to be a comedy, even though most of these actors are comedic actors, and it's not that interesting of a heist to be a good heist movie, so yeah. This is, of the 3 movies this week, oddly enough, this is my favorite Eddie Murphy performance, which is disturbing, but you get a lot of good ghetto Eddie just overdoing it and freaking out a lot, which I just find entertaining. But you didn't really care too much about them pulling off the heist, and honestly, I just got hung up on the gold car, and they wouldn't be able to move around this gold car as easily as they did, and it just was ridiculous, and it took me right out of it. And it was long. These movies are long this week, which is never a good sign. But yeah, Tower Heist, our most recent one. Next up we have 48 Hours. Now everybody says 48 Hours is great, which might have led to expectations being a little too high for this movie for me. Supposedly it started off the buddy cop genre, and Eddie Murphy's incredible, and chemistry with Nick Nolte is great, and it's just not. I couldn't understand it. I love Walter Hill movies, and The Warriors, Last Man Standing, The Long Riders, how you co-wrote Alien. Walter Hill is a good time, and there's a lot of good Walter Hill sleaziness in the movie, but it's just not that interesting. You just don't really care as much, even though I love most of the people in it. You got our bad guys are James Remar and David Patrick Kelly, both from The Warriors, granted they were on different gangs, and Sonny Landham playing Billy the Indian, who you might remember from when he was in Predator, playing Billy the Indian. And they're being chased by cop Nick Nolte, who is really just full throttle bad in this movie. I couldn't buy anybody putting up with half of the bullshit he pulls in this movie, because he's just so thoroughly unlikable, and his only lead is Eddie Murphy. So he releases Eddie Murphy from jail for the titular 48 Hours so they can catch these guys. And Eddie's not that funny in the movie. I think this might have been the oldest recorded instance of Eddie trying to not be the funny man Eddie, which, people, this is a mistake. Eddie, I'm not saying you can't do other things, but always, never stray too far from your wheelhouse, because we want to laugh at the things that you do because you're a funny guy, and he's really not funny in this movie. This is not a Beverly Hills Cop type of situation. He's just playing a convict who's trying to screw over a lot of people and get away with a lot of shit. But it's not what we want. And I just didn't understand. Like, everybody says this is the buddy comedy, the start of the buddy cop flick. And, like, there's no chemistry with Nolte or Murphy at all. You don't buy them being friends at the end. You don't buy them begrudgingly respecting each other. And, like, there's a fist fight in the middle of the movie that's supposed to be them bonding, but it really doesn't work at all. And all the racial epithets and just... of all of the movies, this was the most disappointing this week because everybody talks about it, but I don't get it. I'm sorry. Finally, we have Harlem Nights, which everybody in the world is kind of behind me on. It just stinks. It's just, again, they're not trying to make a comedy movie. They're just trying to make a straight up gangster movie. But they don't have Definitely they don't have the script. I'm not going to go as far as say they don't have the acting ability to do it because I'm sure that they could. Because the cast is really great. Because you got three generations of black stand-up comedy. You've got Red Fox, Richard Pryor, Eddie Murphy. Just right there. And for shits and giggles, Robin Harris is in the movie too. Della Reese, Jasmine Guy, Danny Aiello, Michael Lerner, Arsenio Hall's in there, Miguel Nunez. I mean, these are all great actors and funny people, and Charlie Murphy's in there too. But they're not making a comedy movie. There's like one distinct part, which is basically Eddie Murphy and Della Reese getting into a fist fight in the alley, which if the whole movie could have been that, it would have been great. But it wasn't. It plods along, and you can tell the filmmakers think it was a lot more interesting than the audience does, because we just linger on things that nobody cares about, and there's no one else to blame but Eddie Murphy for it, as evidenced by the opening credits where he appears no less than 5 times. It's like Eddie Murphy Productions, a film by Eddie Murphy, Richard Pryor, Harlem Nights, produced by Eddie Murphy, written and directed by Eddie Murphy. So there's no one else to blame but Eddie Murphy. Eddie, what? Why couldn't you have made it funny or, just more acerbic? And it just... Like I said, this was not the best triple feature to start off Black Awesomeness Month, but next week is going to be great because we're going to have black stand-up superheroes, and like at minimum they're going to be fun, at maximum they're going to be so bad they're wonderful. So please come back for that and watch a better Eddie Murphy movie. I don't know. I just don't get it. Could there really be so few actual funny Eddie Murphy movies out there? I don't want to think about this, but you should. And get back to me on it. I'll see you guys next week.